In this video, we are going to talk about percents, and we're going to start by talking about what does the word mean. Percents is something that you more than likely have dealt with throughout your entire school career. You always get a percentage on your homework, on your test grades, and, well, what does percent mean? Well, a percent is a ratio. Let's put that in there. A percent is a ratio where you are comparing a number to 100. So whenever you see percent, it means you are comparing something to 100. So 23%, let's see, 23% would be the same thing as 23 over 100. You are comparing it to the number 100. So, with percents, we are going to be working on how to create them and how to interpret them. Let's get started. Here we have 40% of 20, and we are going to use proportions to help us figure out what 40% of 20 is. And we're going to have some specific terms. We're going to have part as a term, whole as a term, and percent as a term. So when we are told to find 40% of 20, 20 is the whole. That is the whole number we are working with. So we have now 20 pieces we are working with, and we want 40% of them. That 40% of the whole is the part, and we don't know what that part is. So our proportion is going to start off by looking part over the whole, and since we're comparing it to a percentage, we have our percent over 100. This is how we can set up our problem to solve for a percentage. We've already said our 20 is the whole. 40%, well, you can probably guess, this is the percent. And we don't know what the part is. That's what we're going to try to figure out. So, if we set up our proportion, let's call the part that we don't know, we'll call it P, over the whole, 20, equals the percentage, 40, over 100. And here we have our first setup. This should look pretty familiar to what we've talked about in the past two videos now, so we should hopefully know that to solve this proportion we need to, that's right, we need to cross multiply. So I will cross multiply P times 100 and get 100P equals, and now I will cross multiply the 40 times the 20, which gives me 800. And just like in our previous videos, now we have a single step equation that we need to solve. And thankfully it's not too terrible. It's 100p equals 800, so when we divide by 100 on both sides, we end up with p equaling 8. So 40% of 20 is 8. And there we have it. Very, very good. Now, let's try some other examples. For our second example, we are being asked a little bit different of a question. We're being asked what percent of 60 is 15? Well, remember our setup from last time. We have part over whole equals percent over 100. And based on our question, what percent of 60 is 15, well, hopefully we realize we don't know the percentage this time. We have 60 and we have 15, but we don't know a percent. There's nothing that has our percent sign next to it. So we need to figure out which is the part and which is the whole. Since we're talking about a percentage of 60, we know that 60 is our whole, which I'll put as W, which means 15 must be our part. So let's set up our proportion. We have 15 over 60 equals, and I'm just going to use x this time, over 100. So I have my part over my whole equals the percentage, which we don't know yet, over 100. Just like in previous examples, we need to cross multiply. So I get 15 times 100 is 1500 equals 60 times x, which is 60x. Okay. Now we need to divide, just like we have done in previous examples. Divide by 60 on both sides, so we get our variable alone, and we have x equals 1500 divided by 60, which is 25. So the answer to our question is 25%, because remember, we're being asked what percent of 60 is 15. It is 25%. Okay, now let's do one more different scenario, see what they throw at us this time, and overcome it through the use of math. Here in our final example, we are being asked 40% of what number is 14. Well, this time they gave us the percent. We're trying to figure out 40% of what number? Well, whatever we're taking the percentage of, that's our whole, and we don't know what that is, so the whole is unknown. And then 40% of the whole of what number is 14, so 14 must be our part. Now, remember our setup. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Hopefully by the end of this video we have that set up down. And now fill in what we know. I know the percent is 40, so I will have 40 over 100. I don't know the whole number, so my denominator on the left side is unknown. I'm going to call it W. But I do know my part, which is 14, so that will go up top. And now we cross multiply. 14 times 100 is 1400. W times 40 is 40W. And now we have the setup that we needed, and we can go about dividing by 40. The 40s cancel out, and we have W equals 1400 divided by 40, which is 35. So 40% of 35 is 14. Hopefully this video on percents has been useful to you. Hopefully it hasn't been too confusing. We've set up several different ones using the same idea. The hardest part about these is interpreting the problem you're given and knowing what piece falls into what category. What is the part? What is the whole? What is the percent? Some easy ways to remember this. The percent is going to have a percentage sign, more than likely. When it's asking what percent of something, that something is going to be our whole number. So if it says 25% of 30, 30 would be our whole number. And depending on what information they give us, if they don't give us the whole number, but say some number's percentage is this, well, whatever this is over here is going to be your part. Hope you found this useful, and good luck.